Kids don't understand that.
Sorry.
Kids don't understand that.
Wow, this is political propaganda.
Kids don't understand that.
Sorry.
Can't play well, play loud.
Did you just abandon us in our hour of need?
Kids don't understand that. Kids don't understand that.
Turn into like a Substack. Turn into like a Substack.
Apologies to everyone watching.
Kids don't understand that. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Zach.
Hey, Jason.
I'm trying to get everything going in time, but I'm way too slow.
You had a lot going, though. I saw the reMIND video you posted and everything.
Yeah, and that's just all the stuff that's people can see. Oh my goodness, I'm having so much drama with shipping again. It's just like juggling this craziness. So lots of plans are changing and trying to re-figure out the strategy and all that stuff. And my printer's going, where do I ship the books? And I'm like, let me get these new quotes together.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jason.
No, it's not.
I hope to have these problems someday, though.
It's so weird.
It sounds like your only reason why you're having that problem is because you're so popular. You can sell that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good problem to have, but man, it's just like I thought I'd have this figured out by now. I mean, I've used several shipping companies now at this point and shipped many campaigns myself, and this one is strange. I had it so set up to be so easy to fulfill, but the quote that I was given, it was like half the price that they came back at me with now because of the that I can't talk about, and then they said also, oh well, you don't have enough orders, even though I was way over the order amount that they required before. But they just sent me I told you about this already, but they sent me an email right before the campaign ended saying, by the way, you need to have, $15,000 worth of shipping before we'll do business with you in the future. And I was like, what? This is not, before you said 300 order minimum. That's a big difference, Anyway, so on top of that, they're saying, I was thinking, okay, as long as they're willing to still work with me, I can do this. Like if they get back to me, and they got back to me, but the problem, because I thought I would be able to turn this around quickly because they're fulfilling it quickly from the printer straight to the distributor, and then they fulfill it, and it'll be like done in a month. But then they just said, oh, well, it'll be another probably 3 months to the shipping schedule because you don't have enough orders. And so we need to group it with other campaigns. And then we also need to do it by boat instead of air, which it's fine, but it's not at all what they told me.
Lies.
And so I'm like, now, morning, Jessica. So now I'm like, if there's no reason I shouldn't just have it all boated to me like I normally would do, and then just fulfill it myself, because I'm already paying more money by having them fulfill it for the luxury of not having to do the work myself.
Yeah.
But they're charging me twice as much as what they quoted practically, and they're going 3 times as long as they told me. So suddenly, maybe my wife wants to do this, and I talked to her this morning. She's like, "Yes, I want to do it."
Oh wow. Yeah. Well,
So, it's just like,
well, it's less than Cithra, isn't it?
The thing is, it's easy orders, so it's really, really easy to fulfill because I just put the books in a bubble mailer, ship them out, versus sit-through orders were like, okay, let's do book plates and signed and unsigned and all this stuff.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Especially if it's going to save you, I think, just my guesstimation, probably like $5,000.
Yeah.
I would do it myself.
Yeah. Morning, Eben.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Morning.
Good morning. Now, how are you guys set up? Like, I know, Jason, you are working at your Cintiq, right?
Yeah.
So what are you shooting yourself on?
It's just the iMac monitor or like camera that.
Okay, got it.
The monitor.
Yeah.
And then I share my Cintiq screen.
Got it. Okay. All right. Fair enough. I have a Mac Pro, so and just it's like, oh, there's no camera. I'm trying to decide, like, should I buy a separate camera? How does it? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we love to just hear your beautiful voice.
Well, thank you. Dulcet tones coming at you. How are you, Zach and Jessica?
Say again.
How are you, Zach and Jessica?
Oh,
Go ahead, Jessica.
I'm great because today I just found out, or I should have known this. It's the first commercially manned space crew launch that's happening right now. So it's kind of on the side of my screen. I'm watching out the corner of my eye, and I'm actually literally working on art featuring the space station, the International Space Station.
I said yesterday there was something going on with the space station. I just didn't know what. I knew yesterday, and I said something, and then you were all interested, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know where it was, but I guess you found it. So,
yep.
Woo!
Is that a celebrate? Are you working on art as a celebration of that event, or it just happens to coincide with that event?
Just happened to coincide.
Oh, even better.
Isn't that awesome? Well, I've been working on this piece, and I've already. So, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool. I'm like, what better day to work on it?
Yeah, super cool.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Mm-hmm. Space station comic scene.
Yeah.
I want to drink coffee on the space station.
Right? Okay, let me zoom out so you can see it. So I'm just redoing some of the clouds, but.
Oh, nice.
What kind of coffee is she drinking, though?
That is, I'm not sure yet. But you do have that.
It's like cosmic bean.
Right? Yeah, some kind of space coffee. Oh, there you go. Enjoying the view.
It's probably an ice blended coffee.
Probably.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
Even though it's steaming there.
Heated up over a distant star, something.
Yeah, it's just pressure. All of it's just pressure,
Yeah. So that's that. How about you, Zach?
Doing real good. I don't know. Just woke up in a good mood. So far, today's been good. Gotten some work done this morning, and was looking forward to the stream. And I sent Art the link, and we'll see if he shows up. And
awesome.
Right on.
Because that'd be super cool, Evan. If you talk to Art, you know who Art T. Bear is?
His name sounds familiar, but I don't know him.
He was a big deal in his day. Kind of still a big deal, but he has 2 comics that he's crowdfunded, and he's a really cool dude. I've been trying to get him on the show.
Oh, cool! Very cool.
So, and he doesn't know anything about what you're doing, and we've on Fridays we do a show called The Pontificators where we're constantly talking about how where we think the comics industry is going and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So it's like a kind of a perfect sort of like but if I could get him on here and he could talk to you, you'd probably want to spend a whole entire Friday talking about what you're doing.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'd be happy to join you guys there as well.
For sure.
At some point, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Eben, what's new today?
Oh man, so glad you asked. So reMIND is officially launched on Macroverse as of today. So very excited about that. And the first 2 episodes are up right now. So episode 1 is free for everybody to read. Episode 2 is it becomes part of the subscription of access to everything. And then we'll be putting out a new episode every Wednesday from now until it's done, and then rolling on into Citra and beyond from there. Awesome. So very, very excited about that. And in just a moment, I could even give you guys a little preview of it. I'm just posting right now to come join us here as well.
I don't know if I made a video put the video too soon on YouTube, but I just posted the first chapter on YouTube that you guys made in video form. So about half an hour after we went live, or before we went live. So.
And then anybody that happens to be on Instagram as well, we posted the whole first episode in an Instagram story, so people can get a feel for it there and then continue also.
Cool.
Oh, I was going to ask, Evan, you guys had all those Instagram like walls of art. How do you suggest I post that on Instagram?
So we dig it. Here, I'll show you. Here, let me pull up my phone. I can share.
You'll have to figure out how to screen share it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Let's see.
Awesome.
So there's we like this, kind of Instagram grid thing, because when you visit the profile, it is kind of a cool way to go like, whoa, there's something cool here. The downside is that you're committing essentially from that point forward to post 3 things at a time in order to.
Okay. So you do post 3 things at the same time.
Yeah, in order to keep the grid intact. So like if you come to our Instagram profile right now, like those reMIND images will go up shortly as well. But the you can see like as you scroll through the feed, like we use it to announce like episodes.
Hold on, Evan. Are you trying to share your screen?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So you should be able to see.
I can't see anything that you're sharing, so I can't.
Okay, interesting. Hold on. So I am now got my phone on my monitor. Can you see my screen at all?
No, I just see your little Macroverse icon.
Huh.
At the bottom of.
Oh, maybe I have to. Your screen. There we go. I forgot to click the button. There we go.
Click the button.
Click the button.
Okay, so this is your screen now.
Yeah.
There you go. Now it will make sense.
There we go. So so if you're, so this is Macroverse Media, at Macroverse Media on Instagram. So, as you're scrolling through, what we like about it is you get this kind of cool like thing that stands out of like, oh, here's an announcement of new episodes or new series. And then at the same time, we'll still do individual posts, in between, but it does mean like we're planning out basically little batches of 3 posts in order to keep the grid intact. But then otherwise you're just, you're basically posting from the last one to the first one in a row.
That's cool.
Yeah. But if as a good way to show. So here also on our Instagram is all of reMIND episode 1. So we like to do this as well, so you can kind of start to give people a sense of how it feels. So the nice thing about Instagram stories is actually a pretty good approximation of the user experience. So that's there for people. And then if you go into the app right now, there you go. Boom.
Ammo.
Front and center.
Nice.
So, this is what the home screen looks like right now. And then if you come into series, so again, episode 1 is free for everybody right now. Episode 2 is also posted, and then coming next week, episode 3. But I'll just tap through it real quickly, or actually go back to the beginning. So pay no attention to the cat crying in the water. So you're going to get to see the rewind of the movie for reMIND.
It's like watching a VHS rewind.
Exactly.
Infinitely better.
So coming into episode 1 fresh. And so here we go. So as we're tapping through, I think, Jason, it'd be fun for us to do a sort of side-by-side comparison at some point and kind of talk about, a little bit how the kind of thought process here. But one of the things, and these are some of the little things I geek out about as we put some of this stuff together. But it's like, so here, we find her, we come up, a little closer. So we're kind of like pushing through the grass. And the way you had this layered art, there's actually like, if I remember correctly, there's like a piece of the foreground which is actually on a separate layer. So this is such a stupid little thing, but like we slightly moved it over as we push through, so you get this ever so slightly kind of multiplane effect. And then kind of coming through, and then as she's climbing in the background, the panels are slightly getting higher on the screen, so you're kind of getting the feeling of both the background moving up, but also the placement of the panel moving up. Kind of, it's a lot of what we try to think about is it's like where, as you're juxtaposing images, like, can you reinforce, what's happening in the action or what's happening between the characters, both in the actual juxtaposition of the images themselves, but also in their relative placement to each other. So that gets kind of fun. And then, here's something we do a lot where it's like you get this, the character and kind of what they're seeing, and then something changing about that. Or in this case, it's almost like there's two cameras in the room now. So it's like you're seeing the close up on the eyes, but now we've got a camera behind Victual's head as well. And then now we're kind of seeing from both the front and the back, and then transition to the front where we're seeing that. And then as he moves into the scene, we get to kind of play with how does that go from this kind of split screen to now him coming into the scene to now he's gone. Just some of the fun of kind of thinking through, like, how do you, especially when we're kind of going to this vertical format, our goal is to always kind of stay as true as we possibly can to what we think the intent of the storytelling is on the page if it's an adaptation, but also make it feel like it's a completely new and seamless thing. So a lot of that is thinking about how the camera moves, quote unquote camera moves through a sequence.
I love how it's split screen and the word balloons change, and with the art subtly changing. It's just great.
Nasty.
Looks good.
And then something else we'd like to think about too is like one of the things we talk about a lot is like, how are you coming into a scene? How are you coming out of a scene? So like in this case, going from day to night, being able to kind of essentially do a crossfade there, kind of coming into the super close up for that final beat of the Y. And then here's a sneak peek of episode 2 as well. So
that worked great.
Yeah, like this, I love that moment. It's like you really feel like the sunlight, kind of waking her up, I think. And so, she's coming down into the kitchen, and then, we also think I get a lot also about like in this vertical format, how do you bring characters together? So a lot of it is thinking about sort of an establishing shot of like, as we're panning across, now we have an understanding of the space between the two characters. And so now as we kind of move into this relationship between the two of them, then going to this, kind of split screen, or what we call our 2-shot, starts to make a lot of sense. Like we know where they are. Now we can kind of move back and forth between them. And, relative size is an issue or a question mark. So it's like who's kind of in control of the dialogue or who's in control of the scene sometimes influences kind of how big they are in relationship to each other. And then like also kind of playing with the white space in there as well. So boom, here we are.
Great. Yeah. It really solves that problem of trying to make content specifically for a device and ignoring the book versus what like Comixology tried to get me to make a comic specifically for Comixology at one point. And I was like, well, I don't want to just devote all my time just to that version because my focus is the books.
Right.
But this kind of solves that problem because it really feels like it was made for the app.
Yeah.
And yet it doesn't take away from the book at all, unlike other platforms.
Exactly. That's our goal for sure. And then this was fun. So I think this is the first time that we had done this when we put this together. It's kind of one of these moments of like, oh, we can do it this way. So, I always love it when we get these kind of moments that feel slightly animated that just, kind of so totally works as a beat. And then, as we're coming across, so, we've been panning up and down. And then here's one where we can kind of almost think of it like there's a strip going across the screen from left to right. And so you're kind of literally kind of moving the panel over
Oh, yeah.
to reveal that kind of next beat. And then that gives us a chance to kind of then go back to his mom. Spoiler alert.
Curses. Yeah.
Yeah. Just in case you didn't know, this rat is my mother.
Sold.
And to find out more about that. So yeah, we love it. It's so much fun. And we hope a lot of people will check it out and experience reMIND in a whole new way, or for the first time in a cool way.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, when watching, here, I'll switch it over to Zach's screen real quick.
Ugh.
Oh, okay, never mind. Oh yeah, just so you guys know, anyone watching, if you're trying to find reMIND online, it's not online anymore. I mean, it's still on Comixology. You can buy it there, obviously, but the site is down and it's no longer coming back. reMIND blog. So this is kind of the new method, the new way of actually reading reMIND digitally, in my mind. And so head on over to Macroverse. I have a link in the description. It's only $5 a month, and you get access not only to reMIND, but to all kinds of other comics that they're curating and putting on there, and putting the same love into each one of them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, here you go. Just go to
So it looks like this on the App Store.
Macroverse Next Gen.
And hey, who's that?
That's awesome.
We also just updated the app, so really happy with the kind of new version. It's massive performance improvement. Kind of rebuilt the engine that runs the whole thing, and
Oh, good. That's awesome.
laying a lot of track for kind of what's coming next as far as features on the app. So
when we first launched, months ago, I was trying to record a video, but my phone kept locking up, and I was like, I don't want to show this until the bugs are figured out. So it's good they're all worked out.
Yeah, the bugs are worked out. Yeah. So yeah, it's
awesome.
it's exciting. And then we've got a bunch of new features coming over the course of the rest of the year that we hope will kind of help with other tools, mostly around ways to help promote and get creators kind of be able to more seamlessly build the ecosystem around the content.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Well, anyone in the comments, if you guys have questions for Eben, he is one of the creators of Macroverse. And so he would love to answer any questions you guys have about Macroverse, about the platform, about his thoughts on the future of comics, on the industry, on Hollywood, on whatever it is. He has a lot of experience in all that, and wealth of knowledge. So, but yeah, I'm really excited about Macroverse. I know you are, Eben.
Yeah. I'll also pimp for 1 second. Before we all got locked down, Jason and I recorded a pretty long and in-depth podcast together, kind of talking some about reMIND and some about Macroverse, but ended up being a conversation a lot about just kind of the creative process and the journey of becoming a professional artist and someone that's making their living as a professional artist, and some of the great things about that, some of the challenges about that, mindset. So it's I just re-listened to it. We just put that out this week as well on our podcast feed, which is called Myth Makers. And the latest episode features Jason, but it's a really kind of, if I may say so myself, it's a really interesting and cool conversation for anybody that's engaged in this business of art, design, and making comics. So I would encourage listening to that as well.
Can you show us what it looks like and where to?
Yeah, absolutely. So anywhere you get podcasts, it's out right now. But yeah, I can show you what it looks like here.
Would I be able to post it on my YouTube channel?
Yep, absolutely.
As a YouTube audio video, like a video with.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to suggest that as well.
Okay.
So yeah, if you go back to me for 1 second, this is what the cover art looks like. Wow.
Phew.
Oh, I've got to go. Sorry. Got to swipe over. Where is it?
Wow.
Okay, here we go. All right, sorry guys, figuring out where my screen is living at the moment. There it is. Okay. So this is what the cover art looks like. That's me on the left and my business partner Adam on the left, me on the right. It really is anywhere you get podcasts. So if you just search for Myth Makers and look for that cover art,
awesome,
you'll find it.
Very good. Yeah, that was a fun conversation. What is it, like 2 hours?
It's about an hour. Yeah, about an hour and a half.
Awesome.
But we really do go into some interesting areas, which re-listening to it after a couple of months, since we recorded it, I was like, oh, this is actually like, I'm enjoying this as a listener, let alone someone that was there. So,
Tobias asks, Evan, what are the submission requirements
for Macroverse? So if you go to macroverse.media, here's my, what do you call this? That never-ending hallway. So if you go to macroverse.media, there's a link there for submissions, and it's just an email. You can also send stuff to me directly, which is evan@macroverse.media. So EBEN @macroverse.media. And also macro@macroverse.media is kind of the general email address. So you can send stuff there as well. But you'll find the link on the website. So macroverse.media to send us stuff. We don't really have submission requirements other than, we are looking for stuff that we respond to really from 2 points of view. One is, we do have a certain quality bar, which is, for better or worse, a little bit ambiguous because it's based on kind of what we think, makes sense, both creative, as something that we respond to creatively, but also that we think makes sense on the platform. So there's an element of that, which I know is the greatest thing to hear when you're like, how do I get something on here? And then there are other things that we respond to, for various reasons. So sometimes, I think this applies to comics and narrative in general. It's like sometimes the art is so incredible that you're just like, well, I don't really care what the story is as long as it's not, totally offensive. It just looks gorgeous. So it'll bring me through whatever the story is. And sometimes the story is so great. They're like, well, maybe the art isn't as great as I wish it was, but the story is so compelling that I don't care. I'm just along for the ride. Obviously the ideal is that, they're kind of both working together, but I think those 2 scenarios exist. And then there's a different example where there's a series that we started in all of this. Are we supposed to call it the P word time?
Go ahead. Show them your new.
In all of this, crazy lockdown time, we started an anthology series called Art versus Apocalypse, which is designed for people to be able to do short stories, kind of expressing some point of view or some, feeling of, kind of what's going on for them or, kind of their relationship to what all this is. And we've had a lot of really interesting little shorts come out of that. Some of them are literally a few images. Some of them are longer, kind of 8 to 10 page stories. And for those, it's like the goal was not, this needs to look gorgeous or it needs to be a super compelling story. It was really like, this is a place to say something. And so, I think there's hopefully that covers a lot of ground, but the basics are, we're looking for stuff that's good and we're looking for stuff that, makes sense both for you as the creator and for us as the platform, kind of in the overall mix of content.
Yeah. I think that's sometimes it's hard for beginner storytellers and artists to understand that it does have to kind of solve problems for everybody.
Yeah.
It can't just be a one-sided thing,
Yeah.
And I know I've wrestled with that a lot. And I think I've come to a happy medium. Like, I do need to give fans what they want, and I do need to give publishers what they want if I'm talking with them, or, different companies like Macroverse, and and so just going into any sort of situation that you're creating as content, like it's a partnership with your audience, it's a partnership with everybody you're working with, and I don't know why I'm going there, but
no, you're absolutely right. And I think the other component of it for us is, just on the flip side of that, or as a companion to that, is, we're not attached to like, oh, we need to find more stuff that's sci-fi or horror or superheroes, or like we're not kind of looking from the lens of particular genres or particular style of story. Really just looking for stuff that we respond to, that we think the audience will respond to.
And I think that's important now. I mean, right now, okay, so just kind of trailing off onto a different subject, but I'm digging through Netflix or Amazon trying to like find stuff. There's so much content now that you start watching and you just completely don't care about, because it's just like you've been given so much time to tell a story now.
Yeah.
That people kind of tell too long of stories, or they trail off on these things that are just like, come on, you still have to hold your interest. And so it's like the same thing like what you're saying, like you want to find comics that still hold people's interest and have visual aspects that are fascinating or written aspects that are fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there's an overload of content doesn't mean it's going to be good content.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. It's harder and harder to cut through the noise, and hopefully stuff that's really good still stands out. I think it generally does, but there's a lot of hidden gems out there, of course, as well, which is also something that we're particularly interested in and excited about. And I feel this way, as much success as you've had with reMIND and Citra, there's a huge audience of people out there that have never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like that's really my hope and my goal a little longer term, is that we can bring some of these things that we really think are fantastic, that we think deserve a much bigger audience, and put it into a format and in a form factor and in a place that makes it super accessible, and kind of put it in front of people that not only have not seen that, but I really genuinely believe that the biggest audience for comics are people that don't read comics.
Interesting. Yeah. I could totally agree to that.
So it's like there's a small subsection of people that would enjoy, comic storytelling, that have never been to a comic store, that have, maybe don't even live close to a comic store, and have not been exposed to it or had the chance to fall in love with it yet. And I think that is why something like Webtoons has been so successful, is you've got this thing in your pocket that can give you access to a bunch of cool content, and I'm sure a ton of Webtoon readers have never bought a print book, and so we can do
Webtoons
better.
That really does prove it, because Webtoons is like what, 80% female, like the consumer,
the demographic.
Isn't that right? I don't know.
Definitely tilted female, definitely tilted young, which is another problem that traditional comics have, is historically been pretty hard to get. We all wished when we were younger that there were more girls in the comic store. And at the same time, like, the general age of a traditional comics reader, is in their 40s. It's better or worse, it's me. We've got to find ways to continue the art form and kind of meet people where they already are. And so, to me, that is this addictive little rectangle that we have in our pocket.
Yeah. As much as I hate the addictive rectangle, it is just how everything is consumed.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like commercials on TV doesn't mean I'll never watch TV again, and never have a TV, or I guess there's no commercials anymore. There's other kind of commercials now.
Yeah, totally.
So interesting.
So yes, send us stuff. We want to see it as a submission follow on. And then actually I see a question here from is it Noon Comics, do we get exclusive deal rights if we pick your comics? And the answer to that is absolutely not. So, a little bit of background for me, like, I started down this road because I wanted this platform for myself. And we've also, we've done, myself and Adam, my business partner, my creative partner. I mean, we've worked in all kinds of new media and digital media and traditional media over the years. And so part of the influence around what we're doing and all of this is also kind of not just what did we want creatively, but what did we want from a business standpoint, from how does this thing make sense for creators? And so part of that is like, we don't want to give up the rights to the stuff that we make unless we're getting paid a ton for it. So, and even then we don't necessarily want to. So, so in this case, no, it's like, we don't ask for any rights to the IP. We're not trying to, take over your content. Actually, the only thing that we ask for is that the specific version that we create for Macroverse is exclusive to Macroverse. So, you could take the exact same material and put it on Webtoons. You can put the same thing on Comixology. You can make print. You can do posters. You can, turn it into a TV show if that happens down the road. There's no limitations to what you can do with it. But the thing that we make together for Macroverse, that's the only thing that we want to have exclusivity around.
And it makes sense. And it doesn't really interfere with the artist's anything, because unless you have a Macroverse type platform of your own, you wouldn't be able to really use it in any other ways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
So I think, again, like we try to come from every angle from, what would be the thing that we would want creatively, what would be the thing that we would want to help kind of support the larger goals as creators, as far as, the ambitions around turning things into other media. How do we build tools that, would be helpful to promote and kind of synergize around particular pieces of content. So, I think there's I didn't show it in the screen share this time, but there's a feed component that's built into every series. So if you've got, like a lot of, I know for a lot of Webtoons creators, the way they found the ability to make a living is by selling merchandise. And so, there's a place in the app attached to every series where you can link out to everything that you may want to, that you're either selling or that you're promoting, or, hey, I'm going to be at this convention this weekend. Here's my schedule. Like, all that can kind of live around the content in the app.
So how would me as a creator on Macroverse, because I've been so distant with it. You guys have done it all for me. Yeah. So how would a creator like myself update the Macroverse app under reMIND?
Yeah. So at the moment we do that for you. We are heading towards a world where we'll give you some self-service tools around some of that stuff. Yeah. But at the moment, like we basically, you deliver us stuff that you want to update and we'll put it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
But yeah, where it's one of the things that's actively in development is actually sort of creator profile pages. So there'll also be a better way to kind of go, especially as you have a group of content on the app, like you can actually send someone to essentially like, hey, here's my bio page on the app, and here are all the projects that I'm attached to, and here are the other things that I'm up to, and how do you get to them? And that's one of the things that's coming.
All right. I got a bunch of questions, so let's jump into them. This one doesn't apply quite to you, Eben. It says, this is so exciting. Jason, what pages do you want me to letter for as a sample for Phobos? So, Eben, we talked about Nick on our call the other day. And so he's going to try to letter a group of some of the middle pages so that we can present it to you guys. And then we will have a call about how to move forward with everything. Maybe we're sharing. Maybe I'm sharing too much information. So Nick, let's see. Someone else talk while I get my Phobos file, and we'll settle this right away, Nick.
Oh, well, here's one for me right in the comments. So I'll jump in. So, Eben, so would you embrace a sort of creatively executed story that draws inspiration from animation and combine that with the way the platform works? Absolutely, Tobias, John. So yeah, I think there's a bunch of different ways to approach the material itself and the creation of the material. When we start working with somebody, we generally collaborate on the first couple of episodes together, where we're kind of going through the process. And I will say, like, as we've gotten busier, which is a good problem to have, like we're working more and more to empower creators to be able to kind of build their episodes themselves. And we've put together templates and best practices and some videos, tutorials and stuff like that of kind of how to do that. And then the most exciting thing to me always is getting stuff from people that were like, well, this is how we thought this should work, but you did something different with it, and it's awesome. So that's always super exciting and fun. So a story that draws inspiration from animation and combines that with the way the platform works sounds awesome to me. Send me something. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to answer Nick's question real quick.
Yeah.
How about, Nick, you start with like page 80, like do 80 to 90. That's kind of right in the middle. And it kind of has a couple different things, like can't see it all, but it has kind of like this kind of content, as well as a lot of thoughts, word panels, and then word balloons and interactions. And so that would be fun to see those pages with your magic touch. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Nick does. Okay, there's a bunch of questions. No Fuzzy. Where's Fuzzy? I think we scared him away. I was going to title this episode "The Time That Fuzzy Faked His Own Death," but then it would have stole the thunder away from Macroverse. So we'll do that next time. Then he has to come on.
Right.
Well, he could also avoid us then.
Do you have a theory about how he fakes his own death?
Oh no, he did.
Oh.
Yesterday's conversation.
We were going to continue that conversation from yesterday. So yeah. Did we answer this one? Oh wait, this is Nick.
So sort of. Hey Nick, Macroverse is editing all the comics on its platform into storytelling, like we just saw with reMIND. So if we have something that was developed as a book, they'll edit it for the platform. So yes and no is the answer to that question. So we've got a ton of material in the pipeline right now. So we are kind of at production capacity as far as the stuff that we are doing the full adaptation on. So at this point, we've got about almost 70 creators that we're working with. We've got about almost 1,000 episodes of stuff that we're in some various stage of production on. So people do seem to like it, thank goodness. But so the answer is what we've kind of come to is, we need to teach more people how to work in this format, and for it to become kind of the thing that we think it can and should become. It shouldn't just be us. Like, this doesn't need to be like our secret formula for what the future of comics are. So the way that we're generally approaching it now with people is like, we'll kind of work together on the first 2 or 3 episodes, or to the point where you feel really comfortable with the process, and kind of going back and forth and kind of treating it more collaboratively. We might do the first one mostly internally, and then kind of show make a video kind of how we did it, and then be able to talk through that together. So we're treating it a little more collaboratively, where we're working with people to kind of make people feel comfortable and understand the approach. And then, we're kind of off to the races with, delivering episodes. And then over the first few, we'll give feedback and work together, and, maybe help make some changes if it needs it. And then you're kind of off to the races. But we've also been finding with some of the people that have embraced that process that it does start to have an influence in how you're creating the work. So if it's an existing book, it's an opportunity to do sort of a creator's cut. And this is what I think is kind of exciting about it, is, you can see what we did with reMIND, and rethinking some of how the storytelling works or how we come in and out of scenes, and we're always trying to be true to what we think the material is, and so making stylistic choices about the storytelling or the way the lettering works or all of those different things. But there's no substitute for the voice of the person that actually made it. And so, the way that we treated that, if it was Jason that was actually doing it, obviously it would be different, and it would be a direct port of his thought process and creativity, applied to this format. So ultimately, we think that's the thing that will make the most sense long term, and just also from the standpoint of we could put something else in our queue, and we do from time to time as new stuff comes in that we love, and we just feel like we have to have it. But it's we're now at a point where it's going to be months and months and months before it kind of gets into production. So part of it is that conversation as well. If it wants to happen sooner, let's do it together.
Yeah. Cool. Did you talked about this? It's an exclusive deal. If you pick my comic, no, it's just the Macroverse version.
It's just the license. Yeah, exactly.
Is there a specific image size we should adhere to?
Yes. So we do have a set of templates. We don't currently make those publicly available. And this is a good question, actually, for those people. I'm sure that there would be a general interest in seeing what that stuff is. We've debated a bit about, how much of what we're doing at this point do we want to just make totally publicly available versus, let's know who we're kind of working with at this point. So we do debate that a little bit, and certainly interested in thoughts and feedback about that. But once we've agreed that we want to do something together, then we have a whole set of templates and a whole set of things that we have put together as far as what we think the best practices are and the approach. I should also say we very intentionally built our whole workflow around existing tools. So there's nothing new that you have to go and learn to make stuff for Macroverse. It's not like here's our proprietary software and here's the manual, good luck. It's basically just working within a set of sizes. And if you want to, I'll get kind of really into the weeds for a minute, because this is stuff that I get interested in as a kind of geek about all this stuff. But one of the things that we do have to kind of think about, and is part of the process, is you've got so many different phone screen sizes out there, as an example. So we've got to think about what's the smallest version of this image that someone would see. And so we've built all of our templates for, in print terms, kind of a safe zone, bleed zone, kind of an approach. So you're kind of keeping everything contained in what we call the safe zone, which is, the smallest phone on the planet will still see all the important imagery and get all the dialogue. And then more and more modern, larger screen phones are going to get kind of this bigger and, slightly more expanded, experience of that. So there's some thinking around that stuff, and that's all in the templates. It's a very long answer to, are there a specific image size we should adhere to? But
so it's like an action safe,
exactly.
type template. That's cool.
Exactly.
That makes sense. That'd be a pain to have to do 15 different versions for different phones, and
yeah, exactly.
I can't remember, but is it you may have already mentioned this. Is it viewable on the web as well, or is it
not currently available on the web? I don't have an official announcement about it yet, but that is something we are also working on. So I'm not sure if that's going to make it into the release this year, but it's definitely something we're putting together. The biggest thing there is we don't just want to put out a web player that isn't connected to the whole system. And so that's the biggest kind of tech challenge is, if you subscribe on the app, you should have access to all of your content on the web. If you come in through the web, and you should have access to all of your stuff on the app. And so just making sure all of those hooks and connections are properly implemented is the big part of that project.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. I know there's a bunch more questions. Let me find them. Did you answer this one? You answered one. I wasn't paying attention which one it was.
Would you embrace this sort of creatively executed story? Yes, we did answer that one. Tobias, I like your neon witch character as well.
There's another one. Is a character turnaround? Oh, this might not be for you, Evan. Is a character turnaround in the first arc of the story enough visuals or story? They're good enough for pitching. Oh, it is for you.
Oh, is
character turnaround and first arc.
Story enough visuals and story? They are good. Good enough for pitching to you guys. Yeah, I mean, any starting point is a fine place to start having a conversation. So if you've got, something to show that's representative of, kind of what this thing is going to look like and some way of giving us a sense of what the story is, it might not be at that point something that we would go 100% like, yes, let's put a bunch of resources into anything. But at the same time, we're more than happy to have a conversation about it and kind of figure out together what the right next steps are.
Yeah, good. Hey, real quick, welcome, Art. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh,
hey,
Art.
What's up? Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Art.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Zach, for having me on, and thanks, Jason, for having me on. I have to take a minute and tell a quick Jason story. We did a crowdfund, about 8 years ago or so. It was about the time when you did your second reMIND. And I'll tell you, there wasn't a lot of guys that were kicking butt in crowdfunding. And you were my guru. You were my idol at the time, man. I looked at everything you were doing, and I was like, okay, this is how you do it, and this is how you do it right. So this is quite a treat to be on your show right now, Jason. So thanks for having me.
It's an honor. I hear about your history, and so it's neat to hear that it helped someone in your shoes that has a lot more experience than I do in the comic world. So
okay, so when Jason says history, he means checkered past.
Well, that sounds like a story that has to be expanded on.
Not on this show.
So, Art, could you tell my audience a little bit about you and me, so I could get completely caught up on all the things you've done and your checkered past? No, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, and tell people where they can find your stuff too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I've been working professionally, mostly mainstream, but I did work. I broke in the independents. So I would say professionally for Marvel and DC for 36 years, but I worked 2 years independently. So I worked for Renegade Press, which was like it was an offshoot of, was it Aardvark Vanheim, which was Dave Sims' Cerebus.
Really?
So, yeah, it was his wife, and they had broken up, and so I think they kind of divvied up the publishing division. So then it became Renegade Press, and so I worked for them and through Jim Valentino. So Jim Valentino was doing Normal Man, I believe, and then we were doing some other work for them at the time. So that's kind of, I think it was considered kind of deep indie at the time, almost like R. Crumb, like drug culture stuff, So there's the checkered past. Yeah, there was a lot of possibly some drug abuse going on around that time. And so that's kind of where I cut my teeth, in the independents and doing drugs. That's where I met Larry Martyr too. So if you guys know,
I'm just joking. Sorry.
Oh, you missed your chance, Jason.
Oh, too late.
You're too late.
Wait, were we bleeping out drugs or Larry Martyr?
We'll never know. YouTube just has this way of censoring my content.
Yeah, YouTube.
Good on them.
Oh man, well, that's cool. Yeah, I love the Dave Sim Cerebus phone books. I had all of them at one point.
Do you remember Larry Marder's Tales from Bean World?
Oh yes.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I do.
So that was my introduction to comic books. And then I went over and I worked a few years for Warp Graphics, which was the ElfQuest people, the Pennies, with Ian Richard Penny. And we did Myth Adventures, the Robert Asprin adaptations of the novels. So Jim Valentino and I did the artwork on those. And then, as most independents know, money, there's a lot of flaky people when you work in an independent market, and the money doesn't always flow, and sometimes you don't get paid at all. So that's what was happening. So I heard through the grapevine that Marvel and DC paid on time, and that was a big thing, because I was I was living on my own, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a company that will actually pay you on time. This is a good thing. So I put a Marvel portfolio together, and I went to Marvel Comics and DC Comics on the same day, and I got work, believe it or not, at Marvel and DC on the exact same day. So I got work at Marvel as an inker and as a penciler at DC Comics. So that was pretty much the start of my career, and I've been here, I think, with the independents, probably about 38 years. I've been working in comics.
Wow,
That's awesome.
that's great. So what's your take on this whole new wave of Indiegogos, of Kickstarters, of Marvel and DC kind of their decisions?
Well, I think their decisions are actually helping our market right now. So
Yeah.
I applaud it. Keep craft started, because more people are coming and buying black and white Chrono Mechanics.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So that's your book, Chrono Mechanics. It's on Indiegogo right now. It's doing really well, I see. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. The backers, it's weird because you guys know that it is a constant uphill climb. It only exists if you speak out, if you promote, if you get out in front of people. So it's a constant. And at first it was a little nerve-wracking because, believe it or not, I am kind of a shy person. I'm kind of introverted. But, being on camera and being on these shows, it kind of forces you to get out of that mode and start somewhat becoming an entertainer. And so I'm actually liking it now, bringing the work right to the people, you know what I mean, and talking to them directly, getting their feedback on what they want, what they don't, just stuff like that. So at first it was kind of nerve-wracking because, working for Marvel and DC, you get to hide behind the corporate, name and everything like that. So you don't really promote your own book. But with this stuff, you have to get out in front of people. So this is Chrono Mechanics. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, I agree. I'm totally the introverted. I don't do good in crowds. I like the one-on-one conversations. Mm-hmm. I don't like marketing. I don't like any of that stuff. But doing this now for years, I'm like, there's a really fun side to it. You just having this daily show is something I never thought I would do. But it's really rewarding. It's really fun. I think
Jason, is it the people that are charging you? Because I found that it's the people in the chat and the people that you're hanging out with. That's what kind of fuels my fire now. Yeah.
Ever since I started putting reMIND online, that was the fire that kept me like sitting down and keeping going on these comics. When I realized there's more than my family and friends reading this thing and waiting to see more, it was a huge motivation. Then I kind of backed away from it after reMIND and kind of pulled away from it all. And I think I was reverting back into myself and my natural tendencies. And through the process of making Sithra, I think I've kind of come back again to this idea of being part of the community, not just being in isolation all the time.
Yeah, I think most artists are like that, because we kind of live in our head space a lot. It's a life of solitude in a weird way, even though you have friends and family around you. But it really is a lot of hours in solitude, because you kind of have to be. It takes a certain level of concentration to write and draw comic books.
Yeah. Well, this is cool. Well, everybody, check out Chrono Mechanics on Indiegogo right now. Looks like.
Can I ask a question real quick? So, Art, sorry, this is Evan. So, just for anyone that doesn't know, like, give us a little pitch. Like, what is Chrono Mechanics? While we're talking about marketing and all that, tell us, sell it to us. Tell us about it.
Oh, yeah. I sure as heck will. Thank you. Yeah, Chrono Mechanics retrofit. They do more before the dawn of time than most people do all day. It's an action adventure sci-fi humor book. We started as a 48-page saddle stitch, but now, thanks to crowdfunding and everybody that supported the book, we are a 60-page graphic novel, which is pretty damn awesome. The book is done, and we are going to print the end of the week. We're going to get the files out to the printer at the end of the week. So this thing will be fulfilled within the next month or so. So if you do buy now, you don't have long to wait to get the book because it is finished. And so what it is it's about a corporation called Chrono Inc. And they hire mechanics, time repairmen, that go out and repair the big machine known as time. So it's a pretty wacky adventure. I've heard people say like the tone is kind of Hitchhiker's Guide, Galaxy. So it's a lot of like, I heard it's like British humor, and I'm like, I don't know where that came from, but if you say so, I'll take it. And
Dang, so that sells me, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, it almost reminds me of an old Twilight Zone episode where there's these men in blue that would they would create the world every minute or so.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you saw that one. It was so cool. Anyway, I'm sure it's completely different, but it just sparked that in my mind.
Yeah, so
great,
my dad was always a working class guy, so I was always around that. So when he'd come home from work, he'd be all kind of busted up, his knuckles and stuff like that. He worked on the house, and he, did his own car repairs and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of like the super fantastic meets the mundane. You know what I mean? To these guys, they're seeing things that no other human being will ever see. But to them, it's just a pain in the ass. It's just their job every day. So it's not all that glitz and glamour. It's just kind of doing the job, getting home to your family and your life. And so this image that we're looking at right now, this is Chrono Incorporated. So it obviously looks like a bolt, like a screw or a bolt. And it's out in timeless space. So this is the headquarters. So it's run just like a normal repair kind of company, like a roofing company or a plumbing company or whatever. And so the main offices are here in that kind of dome, and then around the perimeter are the the repair stations for the time ships. And then the shaft, or the screw part, or the threaded part, is kind of time ports. So the ships go flying out of those time ports, kind of like boom tubes, like Jack Kirby's, New God stuff. So they're like boom tubes, and then they go into their respective timelines. So each one of the groups they're kind of like not the Justice League, but the Green Lantern Corps, where they each have their own sectors of time that they repair, that they're responsible for. So each one of those tubes kind of goes into different timelines. And so this story focuses on Team 9.2 of Sector 7, which are the best of the best. They're the best chrono mechanics that Chrono Inc. has ever hired. And so this story starts, without too much spoiler, this story starts with the death of a mechanic. It's still a fun, broad humor, but I also wanted to show that, we think these guys going out repairing the highways and going up on skyscrapers and, even washing windows, these jobs are very dangerous. And so I wanted to show that even though, we take these things for granted, the power line falls down in the middle of winter, there's somebody that goes out there and repairs that, sometimes at great cost. Sometimes those guys die and get hurt really bad. My dad got hurt really bad, and so did my uncle. They both worked the same place, and my uncle actually was permanently disabled from working the job. So I wanted to kind of start off like that there is danger to what they do, you know, and there is consequence. So the story then focuses on getting a new recruit. So the new recruit is that hippie looking, you know, rock guy with the mullet. And so he is the most unlikely member to join the team because he's kind of a 20th century slacker, you know, like late 20th century slacker. And he's a rock star from the 70s. So you can imagine this guy has no discipline, you know, it's sex, drugs, rock and roll for this guy.
Kind of like your early comic career, huh?
Yeah. And to be honest, it did take me some time to figure out what discipline was. Wait a minute, I got to sit down and work.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so the story really is kind of focusing on trying to get this guy that's the most unlikely mechanic on the team and then to fix time itself. And one of the offshoots of time is if they don't fix the time machine quick enough, that time anomalies can happen. So if you scroll back, there's this 50s cafe. Okay, you got to go the other way. I'll tell you when to stop. Okay, stop right there. So like at Eat at Joe's, like 50s diner shows up in a prehistoric timeline.
Yeah.
And so what happens is like time starts kind of folding on itself when the machine is not repaired in time. So what eventually can happen is time will just fold to the point of not being able to go back to the proper places. So that's just kind of gives it a time urgency. You know what I mean? Like they have to do the job in a timely fashion. And the longer they go, the more wackiness can happen. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just all kinds of different characters can bop in. Like later on, I think if you scroll, they drive through an Indian village. You know, they just get out of like, keep going. Yeah, it's the next one. They're right there. They just got done driving through a futuristic city. And then on the outskirts of the city is this Indian village.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, all kinds of stuff starts happening. And that's the fun aspects because they can run into and bump into anybody on the way to the job site, you know, so time actually happens while they're doing the job, you know, different characters can bop in and out and just kind of be more like obstacles and detours to getting the job done.
Yeah. Man, this sounds great. So which, I love these sketches or these inks. Which tier should people buy if people they should want the most bang for their buck? What should they buy?
Well, there's the signed graphic novel plus the sketchbook, and each one of the book tiers comes with a trading card. So there's that one, the featured item, but the best deal is if you scroll down, I think the last tier is the ultimate. There it is. The ultimate Chrono Mechanics tier. So that comes with everything. So for $150, you get everything. You get all the variant covers. You get the work in progress sketchbook. You get the book, all signed, and then you get a mini print. And plus, there's four trading cards in this tier that you don't get in any of the other tiers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for the pitch. That looks really fun. I'm gonna have to pick that up before you close it down.
No. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, Jason. And like I said, man, I am a big fan of your book and your work.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Well,
so do you mind if I do some work too? Are you guys working?
Oh yeah, we're trying to. I like the streams to where everyone's working, so I could show their screens and you got your screen right here. Oops. No. How do I do this? Right
and
there.
it looks like they're asking for the link to the Indiegogo and the questions.
You put the link in there? Oh, they're asking for the link? Let me give them.
I actually have it right here.
Oh, thank you, Jessica.
I'm going to do
I
it.
appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the right one. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. So I was looking, did you pencil or ink? I was seeing.
I do everything. So I write, pencil, and ink.
Wow. That's fantastic. How long have you been working on this?
This one right here for about a week. Yeah. So I'm hoping to have it done today.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was talking about I was looking at the graphic novel, The Crown Mechanics. But that one as well.
Oh yeah. Well, Chrono Mechanics, I think on and off for about 20 years.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
So I originally published it through Image Comics, and then there was a little upstart company called Alias that I put out 4 books from them, and so now I'm just completely self-publishing through Indiegogo.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a little history.
Very cool.
It's got a checkered past like me.
That's what makes good comics and good stories.
Yes.
Compelling. And you said you've been working on that for the last week?
This piece here, yeah.
Nice.
A little too long. But you guys know, if you're all crowdfunding, like there's many hats that you wear throughout the day. So it's not like you're able to just sit down and do, a job from start to finish. There's kind of a lot of things that happen throughout the day.
Yeah. Hey, Art, have you met Eben before?
I have not.
I don't think so. No. Hey, man.
Have you heard about Macroverse?
I was listening early. That sounds fascinating, man.
So I'd like you guys to have a conversation.
Oh yeah, of course.
I love what Eben is doing with Macroverse, and I think it's a really interesting new kind of approach. And I'm actively thinking of, like even launching my new comics on their platform, because I just like the functionality. I like the idea behind a Webtoons type company, where you can actually get revenue from it as well. And I don't have to have my personal website that gets hacked like all my websites did recently.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Stuff like that. So
yeah.
Anyway,
is it monetized per download? Is that how it works?
No. So a quick overview. So I mean, we spent a lot of time kind of figuring out how all these puzzle pieces go together. But actually someone else asked about the monetization. So how that works is basically, we think of kind of Webtoons as YouTube for comics, and we think of what we're doing as building HBO for comics. So it's a subscription service. It's all highly curated, super high quality bar for what we're trying to bring to the platform. And then it's a bit of a streaming model as far as the revenue share goes. So essentially, 50% of the subscription revenue that comes in goes to kind of building and continuing to grow the company. And then 50% of it goes into what we call our creator pool. And then that's all tracked and distributed based on readership. So it's, totally democratic. It's totally based on just the relationship between the creator and the content and the audience. So if your material in a given month is responsible for 20% of the readership that month, then 20% of all the revenue goes to you from that pool. So the thing that we also really are that we like about it, and that we're kind of proud of about it is we also share all of our data. So one of the big complaints that we've heard from other mobile platforms that it's hard to kind of figure out like what's the actual value of this, like what is it actually doing on the platform. And so especially for people that, yourself and Jason and all of us who have to kind of find a way, especially as independents, to connect with an audience and to be able to do things that, spread the word and, get people engaged with not only our material, but hopefully us as creators and what we do. We want to give you as a creator as much actionable information as we possibly can. So, if you can see in 1 month, hey, I got, this many readers and this much of, this was worth this percentage of the readership. Like, what if I do, more promotion next month? Does that move the needle? Or, what if we do something together, both as a company and as, you as the creator? Does that move the needle in a way that makes sense? So, I think it's trying to be more collaborative across the entire process. From
let me ask you a really serious question. Okay. Are you sitting down? Are you sitting down?
I actually am sitting down.
Let's say Zach Bradley goes in and he brings Goma, and then he gets 100% of the revenue.
Mhm.
Do you think it's going to piss off everybody else? That would be hilarious, though, wouldn't it? Like if somebody came in there and they just dominated and they took 100%.
Well, I'll answer that in two ways. So one is,
It wasn't a serious question.
no, it's a good question. Hopefully it pisses everybody off in a good way. It's a little healthy competition, never hurt anybody. But also, I think that the cool thing about it is because it is a subscription where you get access to everything. You know, our initial theory, which we're starting to see kind of prove out in the data, is that everybody's ships kind of rise together. So if people come on to read, reMIND, which is live today on the app, they'll read that and then they'll find something else. And so, I think we kind of have a chance to really kind of support indie creators and indie books, especially in a way that, to me, I'm a child of the 90s comic boom and discovered, kind of black and white comics and indie comics at a time where, I was really excited about just different, interesting things that people were doing. And so, there's a part of this for me, which is like, we can, kind of deliver on that feeling of like coming into this place that's curated, that has a certain level of like, if it's here, it's, probably something about it that's good. And, I'll take a chance on reading this other thing. And, oh, I like that. Well, here's this other thing that I never heard of that is also really cool. And kind of the ability to just kind of discover cool new material in one place that, has again, sort of a quality bar to it. So you're not lost in YouTube, but you're, again, sort of in a more premium environment.
So when they click on whatever the book or story that they want to download, that's how you keep track of the percentage, like how many people are going to this book, how many people are going to that book, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not a download actually. It is actually built on a streaming technology. So even though we're serving you taps or page, not really pages but screens, you're not downloading anything. You're just it's access to everything essentially. So we're
okay. So also piracy would be practically impossible, right? Or harder?
I mean, well, I'm not going to say this. So it's practically impossible. Yes. If you want to get really like, if someone desperately wanted to go in, it doesn't matter. If someone desperately wanted to go in and screenshot every screen and put it up somewhere, you could. But as far as like downloading the book and putting it out on file sharing services and that sort of thing, that's pretty much impossible.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. So we're trying to really lean into what are the things that pretty much every media company is kind of looking at as far as, I think we've moved into a world where people care about access over ownership largely. And then as far as comics goes, there's always a collectible component to it. And so, there's no reason you can't still do a printed version of the same material or, have the kind of deluxe, hardcovers or, whatever those things are. But it becomes a different experience then. So you're not, it's not just a PDF on an iPad that now I got a print version of. Or vice versa. It's like you actually have two different content experiences, even if it's around the same story. So I think that becomes additive as opposed to competitive. So we're as Jason mentioned, we're working with a lot of creators where we're doing sort of a windowing strategy as well, where things will come out on Macroverse first. Our episode links are shorter, so they tend to be not really quite equivalent, but just as a way to wrap your head around it, it's sort of an 8-page chunk of story. And so, people are working with a bunch of people right now that it's like, okay, well, we can put stuff out in 8-page installments essentially, or in episodic installments on a faster cadence than delivering, regular books. And then at whatever point it makes sense, those get collected into the kind of graphic novel edition, and that becomes the Kickstarter or becomes the thing that goes to comic stores or whatever.
So how do you secure it? Like, so if you had a subscription, is that subscription only to that appliance? Like, can they share that with people?
No, it is an individual subscription at this point.
So
But
it's like my daughter has like she has Netflix, but she has it through a friend. Like she uses her friend's access code.
yeah. So it's not that. I mean, I should also say it's a $5 a month subscription. So basically, it's the cost of one comic for access to everything. So we think the bar is relatively low for people to kind of get access. But no, it's not a shared subscription.
So you're thinking that the entry level or the entry point is so low that people wouldn't really be bootlegging it or sharing it because it's not that expensive.
Exactly. And if you're finding value and enjoyment in it, then it's we hope we're delivering a lot for that for that price point.
Well, just know I'm kind of playing devil's advocate, but at the same time, I kind of want to figure out for myself to see if it might be something I want to do. Oh,
for sure. I mean, Jason, if you want to, not to take away from Zach's beautiful work, but if you want to share, me again for a second, I can show art and anybody else that's just tuning in.
I'll wait till you get it on screen.
Yeah. What this is looking like.
Okay. So here this is reMIND on Macroverse.
Yeah. So this is the home screen of the app. You can kind of see we're organized a bit more Netflixy.
Cool. Yeah.
In this regard. So, you can add stuff to your list of stuff that you're reading. You get kind of what you're reading as continue, here. So, taking a lot of cues from, again, sort of what other, streaming modern, kind of digital services are doing. And so we'll tap into reMIND. These 2 episodes launched today. So mostly what we do is usually the first episode is free and then the second episode and beyond goes behind the subscription. So as you come into here, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to do this rewind thing again. But as you come into the episodes for the first time, sorry, I'm just tapping backwards. So one thing you'll even see here, we're not an endless scroll like Webtoons. We've developed our own format, which we think is, in our humble opinion, far superior. So you come into the episode and then you're literally just tapping, basically tap the right of the screen to move forward, tap the left of the screen to move back.
I like that. Is it per panel or is it per page?
So it's neither. So you'll start to see.
You're going to love this art. This is
cool. So we thought a lot about like what are comics fundamentally, and if you take the Scott McCloud quote, it's the juxtaposition of images that deliver some sort of narrative experience. And we think that gets lost in, the endless scroll or the traditional.
Dude, I dig that. That's awesome. It's almost like it feels more like a slideshow or almost animated.
Yeah, exactly. And so it also solves some things, the way we think about it creatively is like you're still fundamentally making comics. It's still fundamentally the juxtaposition of panels and images and text. But you can do things with this type of flow where you can manipulate, the way that you're moving through a scene or the way we're transitioning between scenes.
I have to stop for a minute. Jason, you are so freaking good, man.
Right?
This is awesome stuff. I love your art.
Yeah, I mean, it lends itself really well to this. So you get, with him and a handful of other people, obviously Jason has some animation experience, so it's not surprising that this comes a bit naturally. But you get this kind of thing, which really does feel like animation, where you kind of get this of moments. But it's a lot of fun to kind of then think through like how do these scenes play. There's a little bit of a directorial component to it. There's the element of time is the thing that we talk about a lot. Like that's the thing that we've you kind of add in this. So if you take 3 taps to get from point A to point B versus 30 taps to get from point A to point B, that's a dramatically different experience. You can play with the kind of evolution of a layout. So for example, like here are these 2 characters together as the conversation proceeds, she kind of takes over the scene as opposed to coming in where he's taking over the scene.
Let me ask, was this originally laid out as like a normal comic book page? And then you're taking the panels and kind of figuring out the best dramatic way to present that on, with your format?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And this,
this is so good.
Yeah, art. This is directly from the reMIND graphic novels. I just gave them the flat art with the lettering on separate layers, and so they can just control the lettering and.
So Jason, did you art direct this or like story direct this, or did Eben do it himself?
Eben did all this. So I said, take a shot at it. I want to see what your vision is for how this app will actually work. And when I saw what they were doing, I was like, yes.
Oh my gosh, Eben, you're a genius. Because I said before, like web comics, the format has to be. It can't be comic books anymore. It has to be its own thing.
Yep.
And this is its own thing. Wow. And it's all by tap. You just tap it and go to the next. So there's no scrolling and none of that nuttiness.
Yep. Yeah. So we're really proud of it. Thank you for that reaction. That makes me super happy.
No, it's not even. It's not hyperbole. That's pretty amazing. I kind of expected it just to be like, because I've heard people hype their stuff before. Oh, this is gonna be, what was the one where they had like comics that moved and stuff, and I was like, no, that's kind of stupid because animation exists. Like, let's not do that. Let's still keep the comic book format, that intact. And that's what you guys have done. But it's more of just kind of prioritizing, but also like you can do the one shot and then you can click it again. Then the dialogue will show up. So you can actually pause for time. And then you can actually do two shots, or you can scroll to the next.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
It looks like a lot of work too.
Well, it's interesting. It was a lot of work to figure it out. I will say that we're at a point now where, we're pretty dialed in as far as how we approach this stuff and, how we kind of teach people to approach this stuff. It was really important to us, and just a little bit of the backstory, since, you haven't heard it, but it's, so I've been making content for, 20 plus years at this point in all kinds of different arenas, but comics have always been my first love. And really when the first iPads came out, like so many other people, I started thinking about like, well, what are comics, in this format? And of course the obvious thing is a PDF on an iPad. And it's really just been in the past couple of years. And we launched this in October. We've been working on different iterations of it for quite a while. We were also, some people love this, some people hate this, but we were one of the companies that kind of pioneered the whole motion comics thing. So a lot of our early experiments did involve animation and transitions and bells and whistles around all of that. And we came to the same.
I hope I wasn't stepping on your toes.
Oh, no, not at all.
I didn't like the motion.
I'm actually really proud of the fact that we were able to see that was getting in the way. Because that's what we came to, is like, this stuff is cool, and it's cool for about 10 to 20 seconds. So the first time you see it, you're like, oh, it moves, that's awesome. And then you're like, can I just read this thing already? So I think what we found, and it's been kind of a guiding principle to a lot of our creative work, is that often less is more, in the sense that you're really trying to get to the core of the experience. And I can't even really express what a light bulb moment it was to kind of land on this kind of tap through format, where just like, oh, this is what it is. Like, we didn't know that's what it was supposed to be, but that's what it's supposed to be. And then kind of gearing everything around that. So, everything that we've built is designed to kind of be something that's friendly for creators. We're not trying to get people to work a way that they're not used to. It is kind of leaning into the fundamentals of, kind of what the art form is, but trying to expand what's possible in a digital format. So, thinking about things like time, and thinking about things like, transitions between sequences, but not having to fundamentally go like, well, now you need to learn, this piece of software, or now you need to, teach yourself to make stuff a different way that you don't normally make it.
Right.
So it's trying to kind of lean into all that stuff, and then rethinking the business model in a way that makes sense as well, so that there's a real path for people to, produce stuff, connect with an audience, and monetize around it.
My next question is, because the more I do independent, the more I realize the content is important, but actually advertising and getting the word out is almost more important, at least initially. So what is your plan as far as getting the word out and advertising that you have this amazing, app?
So we're relatively early in this whole process. I mean, we launched in October. We've been a little bit in stealth mode up until really the past month or so. A good friend of ours who actually started the mobile gaming division at Disney has now joined us as a co-founder as well. And so, now with him on board, like we've, started having more serious kind of venture capital conversations. So there's a version, there's a world where, that starts to infuse kind of a bigger marketing push. But a lot of what we're doing is, and it's actually how I got to Jason, is thinking more about, almost again, sort of being a child of the 90s, like what Image was able to do, where it's this kind of group of interesting, cool content with interesting, cool creators that have some sort of resonance with an audience. And what happens if we could bring that all together into one place and kind of synergize it all collectively? And so a lot of our strategy and what we've seen that's worked so far is, if we can help Jason promote reMIND, and that brings people to the platform, and then they find your thing, well, now you've got a new relationship with a new audience. Or if someone else brings their audience to the platform and they find your thing, now you've got another direct kind of relationship with a new audience. So it's looking at this point, collectively we've got about in the group of creators that we're working with, there's about 15 million social followers in various places. And so a lot of our strategy is kind of working with, thinking through, figuring out, how do we, again, sort of synergize all of that together in a way where we're really focused on a more organic strategy for growth right now. And we're growing about 50 to 100% per month at the moment.
That's awesome. Yeah. Because my big thing is, and I've been doing this for quite a while, and the thing I see that's lacking the most in this industry is just advertising. Even the mainstream, especially the mainstream, they expect things to sell on their own merit, or they expect, like, even some of these indie creators, like, well, if I get in Diamond, then that's all I need to worry about. And the thing is, these books don't sell themselves. These ideas don't sell themselves. You really need to get out, and you need to, promote. So I think all these things will succeed or fail based on, like how well you can advertise and get the word out.
But here's what you can't do with a print book very easily is hit this share button and send this to a friend. Or post it on Facebook or Instagram and have a direct link that takes you right to the series. And so that's sort of how we've again sort of been thinking about it, is like every series gets this. I was talking about this earlier. There's this kind of sidebar functionality built into it. So this is designed to kind of connect everything that you're doing is this around your content. So if you want to send people to your website, here's a direct place to do that. If you've got print versions of the book that you want to sell, here's a direct place to do that. Jason and I recorded a podcast together a couple of months ago talking about all this. Hit the link, you're there. So it's trying to build out more and more tools to kind of create this dynamic network effect around all of this stuff, which I agree more marketing is necessary, but I think to me the key to so many creative endeavors is that kind of authentic direct connection to an audience that wants to have it, to consume it.
But then my thing is like, well, how do you find that audience? How do you get those guys?
So it's I think it's a combination of all that stuff, and certainly over the longer term, there is a certain amount of marketing and customer acquisition activity and all that has to happen. And it's we've been fortunate enough to work with a bunch of other kind of new media and digital platforms over the past couple of years and get a peek behind the curtain of kind of how they're doing things. And so, we're kind of taking the best of the best from that stuff where we can. And for better or worse, the most effective thing is, Facebook and Instagram ads. So so there's something sad about that, but that seems to be the most direct, kind of marketing channel, at least at this point, for all this stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think though that since your platform's digital and you have that share button and you can market on Facebook and Instagram, which are digital platforms, does that translate then to book sales if you were to keep pushing the app? Because, okay, so that's the question. But my reason for asking that is because of the whole Patreon model kind of drove me nuts, because it was based on everyone needs to promote Patreon to their followers, but then Patreon wouldn't really do anything to connect those followers together. Yeah. But it seems like your app is trying to connect all those dots.
We're trying to connect all those dots for sure. And the other thing, which I'll say in that regard, so, a lot of what we're focused on is kind of building tools for creators to solve for these problems. And, we're still obviously figuring it out, but so you can see here's a bunch of links to a bunch of different series. Every series has its own link. I'm gonna go back to reMIND, since that's what we're talking about. But, when you hit that share button, this is the same link that you get. It brings you to this interstitial page. If you don't have the app, you can download it, or you can open directly into the series. That takes me directly, well, not Siri. That takes me directly into the episode, into the series. So, that's just one of the things that was like, let's eliminate the friction of finding stuff. So if you are connected to people on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or wherever, like, here's a direct link, takes you, I'm talking about this, I want to go to reMIND, hit this link, I'm reading reMIND. You don't need to land on the homepage. You don't need to promote Macroverse. We just want people to get to the thing that they want to get to. And then they'll find the rest of it from there. So yeah, I think, it's going to continue to evolve, and we're continuing to figure stuff out and build new tools and think about new tools, but it is 100% thinking about, like, how can we build the best kind of synergistic relationship to all this stuff, so that, it helps, again, raise all ships, but also gives, especially independent creators, but all creators on the platform, a way to kind of think about and even a playbook over time for how to, interact with, build, and engage an audience around this kind of seamless experience.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you, if you had like a bunch of advertising money, how would you advertise? Let's say you had $500,000 in advertising funds. How would you advertise?
So that's a great question. I mean, this again, I wish there was a cooler, sexier answer, but the best use of those funds is Facebook and Instagram ads. So, I mean, just the conversion, because I won't say that's true for every product, but for these types of digital platforms, there's really no better way to get direct conversion from, this looks cool, I'll check it out. And in our case, grab a free trial, free 7-day trial, and then become a subscriber. So it's, I'll just give an example. So one of the platforms that we've also worked with, there's, I've talked about this last time, but there's this whole chat fiction world that has emerged over the past handful of years.
Uh-huh.
And it's, essentially telling stories through the medium of text messaging. And so it's kind of interesting, and we've written and produced a bunch of this stuff at this point as well. But so you get this, here's another, actually I'll use this to talk about two things. So we write a series on Macroverse called Dead Town. We also made a Dead Town series on Yarn. So here's what this looks like. You're literally kind of creating interactions between your fictional characters that look like text messages. And following this conversation. So you're kind of in this slightly voyeuristic mode, slightly in the shoes of the character mode, because you're literally holding the phone that they are interacting with, essentially. And so, what we found here is we could kind of synergize these two different entry points into this franchise, into this story. So we got over 250,000 readers on Yarn. And then we were able to put marketing inside of Yarn, kind of working with them to do that. And that drove about 30% of the people that saw those ads went to Macroverse and read Dead Town on Macroverse. So it's that kind of like less traditional, almost content marketing, where you're kind of building out other types of content or other ways to kind of get in front of an audience that might like the content. I mean, that's our ideal way of doing it, because you're actually building out the world, the franchise, the story in more interesting ways than just throwing an ad in front of people. But obviously that's a bigger thing to do.
Yeah, personally, I'd like to start trying to just gear up, and these are just conversations. There's no way I have power to make any of these things happen, but to try to, because comics usually they go after, like-minded people. Sure. But what I'd like to do is to try to start advertising to people that are just normies, Like when I was a kid, you could get a comic book at just about any kind of venue. Yeah. And then it became more specialized and more specialized. And I think right now, since we're seeing kind of the I don't know, some people sensationalize and say the death of comic books, but I think it's more like maybe the death of that delivery service, Diamond direct to retailers and stuff like that. So I really like the idea. Like I'm no longer really, my wagon isn't hitched to Marvel and DC anymore. So, and I realize that the only real change that's going to happen in this industry is going to come from people like us, the people that are talking right now in this chat, because for the 35 years I worked for Marvel and DC, I've never really got into any conversation like this with any Marvel editor or DC editor. When Wizard Comics was around, Gareb Shamus and some of the editors and stuff, I would have conversations like this, how to grow the market, how to build the market, but really never any Marvel DC guys. So I really like the idea of, if there is going to be change, I don't think, because Steve Geppe's been very verbal these last couple weeks. And I don't have anything against any of these guys. I want to just state that. I mean, I've done very well in the comics industry, and I'm very, very thankful for the business model that these guys have taken a chance and have built. But it's really clear that they don't really want to change things, that they're doing well the way they are. So the reason it's structured in such a fashion is because they're doing okay. There are people that aren't doing so well, but they are doing okay. But I don't think that's long-term growth, and I don't think that's real change. And for right or wrong, I'm just going to say this, Eben. I have been crucified for saying stuff like, we need to take things digital. We need to bring things onto this platform. And I have several reasons for that. One of the main ones is just accessibility. It's a world market, man. It's a world market on the internet. And you can potentially hit more people. You can reach more people doing this than you could based on a Diamond catalog. You know what I mean? Like, you can attract new audience and get new people in this way. And so I thought what would be good, like this was just a Marvel DC platform idea, is one, since it's a world market, make all of these books in different languages. So they could click on their language, and then they could read the comic book in their language. So then you're international. And then two, I thought, and it's something like kind of what you were talking about, where this was more of a Marvel DC idea. Like if you had, like it was the Marvel universe, and then you had like the Shield files. So you know how you used to have editorial notes where the editor would say, if you want to see more of this story, click on, or go to this book or whatever. And so what I was thinking is, if you had like those little icons, you could click on those and you could find out like backstory. Like you could go access Shield files. So if you didn't know who Spider-Man was, if you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Spider-Man was, you could click on that and you could go and you could read about, like Peter Parker's background. Like it's a file that Shield has compiled on all these superheroes and on this universe. But if it's accessing a story specific point, you could actually click that and then go download that story. And then your credit card is automatically, dinged for the price. But like you have a subscription rate, so
Yeah.
you can fly all over the place based on a subscription, so they could download anything, right? It's not going to cost them more money or anything like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think you're very much thinking along some of the lines that we are as well. I mean, I think once you're in a digital world, I mean, really, there's nothing that you can't explore kind of or do. So I think, you know, the toolkit can just get kind of bigger and bigger, while I think, you know, for our thinking right now, still controlling for kind of what are comics and not, you know, not turning them into animation or not turning them into other things, and how to build kind of the ecosystem around that, I think is a critical component of it.
And Evan, I think what you're building is something that Art was alluding to as the worldwide audience. You've created a platform that can make translations really easy, because the words are all built separately on top of everything.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So so it's one of the things we haven't rolled out multiple languages yet, but we built the framework for it. So all the lettering is actually done kind of at the software layer. So that way, you know, we don't have to go back and re-letter 1,000 episodes. We can, you know, add translations and then roll out different countries and different languages for kind of everything across the board.
Well, it'd be great if you could just partner with, you know, at least somebody else that maybe can translate that stuff with you, and then just kind of do it that way. Because I do think like that internet. I mean, if you look at most of Hollywood now, they're more like looking at international as far as, you know, their, you know, marketing and selling. It would be really amazing if you could tie into a world market in such a bigger way. And also, if you were the first to do it, I guarantee you're going to make history, because this is the new frontier, my friend.
Oh, no question. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a much bigger audience, you know, obviously around the world, but also even just in the US, of people that don't make a weekly trek to the comic store but would enjoy comics. And so I think, you know, giving it to them, you know, where they live, in a format that they're comfortable with, in a place that they're already spending their time, you know, it certainly makes sense to us. And then as you start to add other tools and other kind of things that engage and create even greater connectivity and interactivity around all that stuff, and then, as you said, expanding to other languages and kind of tapping into the appetite for content all around the world. I mean, it's sort of an endless opportunity. So it's just, you know, figuring out how to prioritize all of that and you know, make sure that we're, you know, at least our thinking right now is like, if we can start to, you know, continue to build traction, you know, in a place that we're, you know, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit right now, and then expand from there, then it feels like that's the right strategy. But I think it's something we're thinking about all the time, is how does this grow, and how do we plan for that growth and build the right tool set and the right infrastructure and the right technology for that growth, so that it's not, you know, trying to strap something on top later, but is
right,
you know, part of the roadmap now.
Well, the way I feel about, like, if you look at most successful business platforms, and even governments for that matter, if the DNA is really sound, even though they're not able to manifest all those ideas, you know, like if you look at Disney, like Walt Disney's business model, or even the United States, our founding fathers, like it wasn't fully realized at the beginning, but it had forethought involved. So the DNA was always sound, and there was built-in kind of destination to it. Yeah. I think that when you see businesses fail, or even governments fail, they don't really have like a long-term kind of idea. And so it's good to hear that, you know, you have the here and now. You have to learn to walk before you run and all that other stuff. But as long as there's a bigger, you know what I mean? Because like for me, like doing this stuff is to try to get a new audience, you know, like I don't want to just keep, I love the comic book fans. I love, you know, all those people that have supported me over the years. But man, I want to get the kids, you know, I want to get the young people in. I want to give us another 20 years worth of life, you know, like that's what I want to do.
Well, there are two, I mean, you probably already know this, but there are two things in that arena. One is, I mean, even in print, the fastest growing segment of the market is the young adult graphic novel. And so, I mean, there's clearly an appetite for a younger demographic for this type of content and format. And then obviously, Webtoons does really well at what they do. They had 90 billion views last year around the world. So, I mean, that the proof is there that people want this stuff in this way. And then I think the thing that we're trying to do is kind of, again, create sort of the premium alternative to Webtoons that really also is designed to support creators and allow people to actually do this thing that they want to do and connect with an audience around it. And then I think as you say, it's like the people that the opportunity to reach a new audience is, I think, just mammoth in a world where we already have the delivery system on us at all times, and our own personal kind of point of view on content has evolved to one where I think that it's no longer how do you get people to your particular platform or to your particular delivery system, but it's really like the delivery system is already there. So then it's just how do you get people to engage, in the thing that you're, trying to engage them in. And it's one of the things that, we saw with the whole chat fiction thing is, that's literally reading stories like their text messages. And there's about 150 million people on the 3 top platforms that are reading that stuff. So, not to disparage those things, because I think they're actually pretty cool. But if there's 150 million people that want to read stories in the format of text messages, there are that many people that want to read this. And it's, it's just our job to get it to them.
That's the major point, is just to try to grow an audience, and to try to hopefully not just, give good product to the people that we know that are buying, our stuff, but to try to get some new people in, some new blood, some younger people. And I think by doing that, we can kind of not only do well in the here and now, but also kind of guarantee that this type of storytelling and things have a future. I'm an older guy, obviously, so I'm thinking about the next generation at this point. I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of the stuff that I grew up on, the things that I thought were the given, right, that were always going to be there for me, aren't anymore. The delivery service of Diamond, retailers and things like that, like it's very, very limited. And it's also showed that it's very, very fragile. I mean, look at what's happening right now. So it's not in a healthy place, and it hasn't been in a while. So that's another reason why I'm doing independent, because this market is growing. I mean, Jason will tell you, this market is growing, and there's a lot of attention coming in here. And you guys mentioned Image Comics. Well, I was one of the founders. I was there. I wasn't one of the 7 core, those guys, but there were all the supporting guys that came over from Marvel as well. And so I was doing X-Men and Cable for Marvel. Yeah. And I came over and then did black and white for Image. Yeah. And started working out of Extreme Studios with Rob. And what was there, the reason I compare it to Image Comics is because even Rob Liefeld said it's not Image Comics. Like, he came out and he was kind of like, no, it's not. It's not Image Comics. So it's not structured the way Image Comics. But what I mean by that is the spirit, the spirit that now there's future. We can do stuff. And I say on my live streams, I got a YouTube channel as well, I say we can dream again. You know what I mean? Like, we could actually start thinking like there's an audience here. We can start doing different type of format work. We could actually, do stretch goals like, patches and posters and trading cards, all kinds of cool stuff, which we did in the 90s, where if you could think it, you could do it. There was money, there was resources, but more important, there was a mindset that it wasn't, you weren't beat down. Like, there's a lot of industry, like mainstream industry, there's a lot of beat down people that don't dream, that they just kind of keep their heads down, make their deadlines and get their, their money. But like we could do so much more, you know. I want to get to a place where we can dream it again. We can think of these formats like the stuff that you and Jason, you know, are doing and stuff like that, and then kind of build outside of that, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's, you know, it's a weirdly concerning time for comics, but I also think it's a, you know, kind of weirdly exciting time for comics in that, you know, in all of these, in all cases where these sort of massive upheavals, like there's opportunity. And so, you know, figuring out, you know, what those are for ourselves as individuals, but also for the industry as a whole. Yeah, I have a kind of weird amount of excitement about that, actually. But you know, it's change can be hard, but it's also hopefully ultimately good.
But I think like I think it had to almost end, you know. It's almost like you're an alcoholic and you have to hit rock bottom before change is, you know, like you weren't going to change the course, but once you're forced, then you do. And I think that's kind of what's happening. But what else is happening is I think there's people that are realizing that maybe we should try to change the course ourselves. You know what I mean? Like we should try to do something different. I mean, it may fail, but you know what I mean? At least we got to try it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Eben, can you, I don't know how much you want to share, but can you, are you okay with sharing some of the numbers of subscribers, or is that confidential information?
Yeah, so I mean, yes, I don't mind sharing some of that. So I mean, we launched in October. You know, we've kind of been seeing anywhere from kind of 50 to 100% growth month over month. We've got about 1,000 monthly active users right now. And so again, like by the end of May, that looks like it'll be closer to 2,000, and then, you know, kind of keep that trajectory going, hopefully. And then, you know, subscriber numbers are fluctuating ongoingly, but it's usually about 10% of 10 to, well, it's actually higher than that. So it's more closer to about 30% of the audience are subscribing ongoingly. That fluctuates. And this last month, it's actually been closer to 50%. I think the pandemic probably has something to do with that.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of high level view of it. And then, just growing and growing from there.
That's awesome. Do you have any plans to make some content that is free, just to kind of lure people in, more than just the first issue?
Not broadly. You know, again, I got to go back to the kind of YouTube versus HBO comparison, but you know, there is actually plenty of free content in the world.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
I think broadly, we want to make something that's going to support the creators and the company, and you know, let us all keep doing what we're doing. And unfortunately, there's no way to do that by making things specifically.
I was thinking about a way to kind of get more people to get used to the platform, and because that's like how when Kickstarter started, no one was used to that whole idea, and a lot of the videos were about pitching how Kickstarter worked, and now everyone just knows, you know.
There's I think that the caveat there is, you know, one of the things that we actually kind of think is cool is we can sort of do what they don't do it as much anymore, but HBO used to do things where it'd be like, this weekend, you know, come watch all the Sopranos for free, and you know. Okay. So we do have those levers to pull, and I think that's kind of fun to play with. Is, you know, like, great, you know, here's, especially as we tend to think of things in kind of TV terms, so we're thinking of like episodes and seasons. So you know, with reMIND, for example, it's like, you know, great, here's season 1 is up, it's complete. You know, let's say season 2 is launching 2 weeks later. It's like, you know, the week before season 2 launches, let's make all of season 1 free for that week.
I think those are better ideas. I do that sometimes with my website too, where you make it a special event to sell your artwork and your prints. Because if you discount them too much, or you have it too much on a regular basis, I don't know. This might be a little crude, but I don't know how else to say it. Like, if you give things away for free or too much of that, like discounted, it it makes it look from an outside perspective that it has no value. So that's one of the problems I have with the internet, because I think a lot of people are used to getting things for free, and it's always the problem is how do you monetize some of this stuff. So I kind of agree with you, Eben, that I think that you always have to keep in mind that there has to be a perceived value. There has to be, you know what I mean? Like if you give too much away, then it seems like it's not important or that it has no value.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree with that. And I also think, what we've done, and it's, kind of following the model of many other streaming services. So there's a certain level of comfort, I think, with, hey, let's make it really easy to come in and try it. So you can get the first episode of just about everything for free and get a sense of it. And there's now, a bunch of series on there, so you can see a bunch of first episodes and get a sense of the kind of spectrum of that. And then to subscribe is, you're not locked in forever. You're just saying, like, I'll take the 7-day, free trial. And if you want to read everything over the course of those 7 days and then cancel, like, by all means, do it. But hopefully there's enough value there for you to, stick around and get more and more as we put it out. So
yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah. As long as they know that it's like a temporary time, you know what I mean? Like as long as they know that it's, this is just to get you in.
Yeah. Yeah, the Apple and Google have pretty strong controls over that. So you have to be very forthright. Not that we wouldn't want to be, but you have to be very forthright about what the terms of it are and all that. But, yeah.
Hi, Fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
Hello. sorry, guys. I wanted to comment. I think that a lot of that free stuff that you see on, just on the internet in general doesn't really have a quality filter. And that's what made Macroverse sound so nice to me, was that, like, and look so nice, because I could see the art quality at the very least. It's not, you're trading that monthly subscription price for that guarantee, It's like when you're buying from a local business, it may be a little more expensive than, like, I don't know, the chain stores, but you're happy to pay it because you like what you're getting. It's not like
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you see that reMIND page, you're like, holy shit, this is quality, man.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you guys. Well, that's awesome. Well, I love where this is going. So, I mean, I was kind of playing devil's advocate with the whole having a free issue. And it's also coming out of the mindset of, like, I have a webcomic, it's free. It gets people to read it, and then I sell to them later. But yeah, I mean, all your responses, Evan, make a lot of sense, and I would prefer to do it the way you're suggesting. Just having a time window where it's like, now you can get this right now if you jump on. It gives you a lot of leverage for advertising, like a different series at a different time. It's really great ideas.
I mean, it's the other thing we're constantly doing too is testing. So, we may find over a period of time that it's like, okay, it actually makes more sense, or, it's not to get too businessy about it, but it's like, oh, the conversion rates are better if we give the first 2 episodes away for free.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, we're kind of getting that information, that feedback. And it's one of the nice things about being in this digital world is you get this sort of real time data and feedback back from what people are doing and how people are interacting with stuff. And, we can start to fine tune how all that works as the whole thing goes forward.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Eben, and Jason too, it makes it sound the way you made it sound like that you had done this, like Facebook ads. I've done those before with different campaigns.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like with certain campaigns, I had like a smaller budget, but then, I kind of did a Hail Mary pass and just went, you know what? People say this works. I'm going to put a bunch of money into this. So I put several thousands into advertising. And to be honest, I mean, the stats were there, like here's the numbers, that they furnished and everything. But to me, they didn't mean anything because it didn't translate into any real sales. So I didn't see my traffic go up on my site, and I didn't see, an increase in sales. So I got really discouraged with Facebook ads and stuff. So are you guys still really like that's a viable place to advertise? And if so, how do you make it work?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a viable place to advertise. This is not my area of particular expertise. So, we have one of our partners, he's got a lot more experience with how that all actually works. But it's what I have found in my personal experience is that it's more effective to be super targeted with trying to reach a potentially really interested small audience than to try to cover a big, broad audience. So, where we have seen the biggest success in social advertising and especially Facebook advertising is like, okay, here's this series that we think will appeal to Harry Potter fans. So, like trying to build some sort of creative and then the right messaging and, the kind of target audience is very specifically Harry Potter fans. So we've seen greater success with like, can we target 10,000 people that we think would really like this particular thing over, let's try to blanket, people that like comics.
Yeah, you don't just say comic books,
Right.
You try to tailor it to the most specific, to that IP or whatever it is that you're advertising. And we did do that, but man, I'll tell you, it's so funny because there's people like I talked to Brian Polito and some of those other guys that and they're like, yeah, Facebook ads. I'm like, I never had any success with it. So I don't know how the hell they're making it work.
It's weird. I tried to do it personally on and off, and it never worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I recently started a Facebook account again and dove back into it because a friend of mine's doing it and having huge success with it. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's try this. And I've realized there's a whole nother level of Facebook that I just wasn't even scratching the surface of, And so I don't have the answers of how to do it, but I'm definitely going to. I did it a little bit with cognitive drawing as kind of a jumping off point to try it again, and I'm going to continue it this summer. And so, but I see the potential now. My eyes are finally seeing the potential of Facebook advertising and why, especially with, what is it, 2.6 billion people on it. You can really it's not just sending out flyers to people or putting up billboards. You're really able to target things, and you don't have to necessarily make an ad saying, come and buy this product. That's where I think you spend a lot of money and lose money. You can just spend a lot less money to just say, to bring awareness to you. And then if you get people to, join your groups and whatever, they can naturally go buy your product if they're interested.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's kind of like just use it as an advertising, like a blanketed advertising, tool versus like very like specific. So it's more or less just getting over time, either your brand or you in front of, an audience. So then, they get used to seeing that like ad pop up or whatever it is. And so, you know what I mean? Then you can attract an audience that way. And then I guess you can write it off on your taxes as like a loss and advertising budget, because sometimes you can spend a lot of money on those things.
Yeah, but I don't have any answers on it yet. I am trying to experiment with it this year. And I have a friend helping in. So we'll see. I might pull the plug on it after the year's up.
I can share about that too. One is like what we have found, and we're still doing a lot of experimentation around all this stuff, but it's like we've definitely seen more success with smaller kind of experimental A/B testing, kind of things where it's like we're not, and when I mean small, I mean it's like we'll say, okay, we're going to spend $10 over the next 3 days trying to target this very specific little group of people, and then seeing like how many people went from that, in our case, to go download the app, and then how many people became subscribers. And so, I mean, we have a little bit of an easier way of being able to directly measure that by knowing, okay, if someone becomes a subscriber, that's generally going to be worth at least $5. So if it cost us less than $5 to get that person to come check it out and do that, that was worth it.
Yeah.
And so, we're constantly running those like little tiny experiments. And then when something seems to start to work, then we'll, kind of expand it out from there and see if it's not working, and kind of really closely paying attention to like, oh, this is not working the way we need it to. Stop running it. Stop spending money on it. Try something.
Yeah, do you feel it's kind of like the stock market? Like working Facebook ads is like you constantly have to monitor like the activity, because you can adjust it as as it's going. But man, I found it daunting and so much effort.
There is an element to that. It definitely does require some effort. I mean, it's and the other thing I will say as a resource, though, I was surprised to find like there's a whole website which I just happened to stumble upon, I feel like randomly, that Facebook has put together with all of their kind of guides and videos and what they think their best practices are. And it's this actually kind of amazing resource for what they say are the things to kind of pay attention to for having success with Facebook ads. And since they obviously want you to keep spending money on Facebook ads, it seems like it's a pretty good resource.
My conclusion is there's art. This is kind of directed at you. There's no way I can do this stuff myself, because I'm not. I would need to have that as my full-time job to do it right. And so it's almost like you have to partner with someone who's in that field and enjoys it and obsesses over it and can help you with it. Because I don't think as artists we can wear that Facebook marketing hat very easily on our own, successfly. At least that's my opinion.
I completely agree. Like I say this like on my show a lot. Just we're wearing many hats every day, and I can do each one of these tasks, pretty well. But when I have to do all this other stuff, then some of it I'm not so good at. You know what I mean? When you only have a half hour to spend on Facebook ads, or and that's it, or whatever it is that you have to do on that in that specific day, then you have to play like that numbers game. You have to go, well, I can't really dedicate any more time to this because I have a page I have to finish and it has to go to print. You know what I mean? Like those type of things.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Jason, 100%. I wish I had that person, man. That would be awesome. Because I always think like I know I brought up Walt Disney earlier, but like the whole Disney model, the early Disney model was perfect. There was Roy and there was Walt, right? So you have the idea guy, the creative guy that's got his head in the clouds, and then you have that reality guy. That guy that goes, okay, well maybe if we did X, Y, and Z, if you pared it down to this, I could sell it to the bank. You know what I mean? Like that's the guy you need. You need that guy that can make that business deal, because it's art and commerce, and if we don't have money, then we really can't do our job. So it is important, but drawing and creating is a full-time job unto itself.
Yeah.
There's a reason that it is somebody's job. Like this isn't like this is part of being hired onto advertising now. If you're not good at this, then you don't get, a lot of advertising jobs. So you have to hire people like this, because if you've spent any amount of time on the back end of Facebook advertising, it is crazy complicated.
Yeah.
It is.
I haven't done a lot
job.
of that. I haven't done a lot, but I know just a little bit I've done. It is complicated.
Yeah, so I mean, Art, to answer your earlier question, if we were going to spend $500,000 on marketing, the real answer is we would hire a company to spend $500,000 on marketing that specializes in doing that.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
The thing is, man, I've done advertising art. I have a love-hate with advertising because, like, for the same amount of time that it takes me to do a comic book, I could probably make 10 times that amount, working in advertising. But like, I've worked for Famous Frames and different, big advertising firms. The problem is I don't want to draw refrigerators for a living. I don't want to draw like ads. I like storytelling. I like these adventures, and I don't know, like a couple years ago, well, it was probably a long time ago, when Der Wiener Schnitzel was doing the Wiener Schnitzel guy. They had like the Wiener Dude attitude. Well, they hired me in my studio to do all the artwork for that. So we did all the art for that campaign. We did all, like, those little paper things that go for the tray when you're at the restaurant. We did the little comic strip for that and everything. I'll tell you, man, I made probably a third of my year's income just on that advertising campaign, and it only took us a few weeks to do it.
Yeah.
All right, you said you worked for Famous Frames.
Yeah.
What years were that? Did you do that?
Oh my gosh, it was at least 20 years ago.
What did you work on any movies through them?
I didn't work on any movies, mostly advertising and mostly stuff that never saw print. That the Wiener Schnitzel thing was the only thing that really saw print, the storyboards and then all the art for that. I mostly did stuff like Porsche, was trying to get a new like bucket seat, for the cars sold or like as a campaign to sell to their investors. I don't really know what some of that stuff was, but it was utterly ridiculous. Like, you draw like a bunch of bucket seats, you know what I mean? Like, from all these different angles, and then you draw them in like, oh, this is the pen and ink version, this is the sketch version, this is the color version. And you have absolutely no idea what they're really going to use this stuff for, because it's so abstract. And then, you do them and you get a bunch of money, but it's soulless work.
Yeah, I just asked because I worked with Famous Frames for about 6 years too. They represented me.
What years?
90, the end of 96, 97, 98, 99, probably about to 2003 is when I stopped.
Yeah, that's about the time I worked there too. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Oh. All right, guys. I am way over my time. So I'm going to wrap this thing up, unless you guys want to continue with any subjects that are of grave importance.
Let's just tell everybody at the end to go check out reMIND on Macroverse.
Yeah.
It's iOS and Android. If you search Macroverse, you'll find it in the app stores. Then we can put a direct link somewhere up as well. But check it out. Let us all know what you think.
Can you throw the direct link into the private chat? Then I can,
absolutely.
I can put that into the stream.
Absolutely. And then, new episodes every week. And then the plan, at least for the time being, is anybody that wants to talk to me about this stuff, I will be back with you guys every Wednesday.
Yeah. We got a question here for Fuzzy. How do you choose your colors for the chapter? They are beautiful.
Oh, well, that's incredibly flattering. I work up a bunch of palettes and then I go from there. So I can show you what I started with. I just created
There you go.
Whoa. Why is it glitching out like that? It shouldn't be double like that. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I just created a bunch of palettes and kind of built the feeling that I wanted. If it didn't have the emotionality, then I would keep tweaking it until it did. And just kind of built it from there. And then I kind of try to simplify it down to like a group of at most 10 colors. with like 4 base colors that drive it. And you can see those kind of off to the side here.
Okay.
Those are what I lean on the most, just for like, I don't know, the hot spots, you know, because a lot of things can be muddy, especially in this story about, you know, rain. So finding hot spots and pushing them to those 4 most important colors are what I do.
Yeah, that looks really nice. All right.
Well, I was going to say before you wrap it up is that Evan, Art and I do it's Art's channel, so it's, you know, it's his show. He does a show on Fridays called The Pontificators, and all we do is sit around and talk about what we're going to do in comics and the future of comics and stuff like that. And I think it would be awesome because a lot of consumers and creators watch that show.
Yeah.
Be great to get more exposure on your man. Why can I never remember what it's actually called?
The biggest universe, the Macroverse.
To talk about the Macroverse and expose it to a lot of people that have no idea it exists.
Yeah,
that's a great idea, Evan. Yeah, if you want to come on the show, you're always welcome. And we pretty much just talk pop culture and geek, you know, comic book stuff to death. So we end up trying to keep it around an hour and a half, 2 hours, but we usually end up going to 3 hours because the conversations get, you know, pretty in depth. So it's a lot of fun, and we do it every Friday. So, you know, and even Jason or anybody here, you're all welcome to come. And it's kind of just like we try to we bring up some problems, but we also try to come up with solutions, a better way maybe to think about the industry, to market comics, you know, just all kinds of stuff like we were talking pretty much here.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in for sure. I've actually if we even want to do it this Friday, I'm down for that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. If you could, like, on Twitter or whatever, like Facebook, if you could send me like a DM or whatever, then I'll make sure that I can connect with you socially, and then we can hang out.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Yeah. And I want to come on too. I don't know if I'll do it this Friday, but I will carve out some time to one of these Fridays to come on your show, Art.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Sometimes we get like a ton of people, like we've gotten like 1,000 views, and then sometimes we'll get like 100 people. Like, it's really weird because Friday nights, Zach and I were thinking like, there's not a lot of competition on Friday night. And since the pandemic, oh my gosh, there's like so much competition Friday nights now. It's insane.
That's great. Well, good. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Art, and thanks for coming on, Evan, and all the usual guests as well. Thanks for being on the show. And please head on over, at least check out Macroverse, at least download the app and try out the free trial. Was it 7-day free trial, Evan?
7-day free trial, yeah. Okay.
At least try it out and see if you like it. I'm really convinced it's a great direction to go for the future of comics. So much so that I'm putting reMIND on there. Sither will be coming next. And we're even discussing Phobos having its home digitally there as well. So with all that said, let's see, I need to get my button ready to end this thing. I don't know how we should end it. How should
boom.
Sorry?
I said boom.
Boom. Zach, you want to bring up another controversial subject?
Art, do a controversial.
Art, what kind of controversial subject should we end the show on?
My checkered past. Are you serious? Like a discussion about like a controversial?
That will get us banned.
When you start talking,
this will go on. No, I can't do this. I can't do this. Crowd, Jason. I can't do this. Man.
Okay,
we'll go on for another hour or so. Yeah.
He was wearing a mask when you go outside today.
Yeah.
All right. Zach, it's gonna.
How about a high note? We can go out on a high note. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for the high note?
Yeah.
Ah!